You're listening to CRM Audio, the Microsoft Business Applications and Power Platform podcast. I'm Joel Lindstrom, and joining me today is my co-host, Shawn Tabor. Hello, Shawn.
Hello, Joel.
How is life treating you?
You know, it's good. It's good. I mentioned this on one of the prior podcasts, but I bought far too many masks.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that I did, and they're coming in the mail. And so if you need one or anyone out there needs one, I might be able to hook you up. But it's been good. It's been good. You know, staying busy.
I probably shouldn't tell you about this, but go to redbubble.com and search for Microsoft mask. I ordered a Microsoft mask. I ordered a Windows 98 mask. I think I got a Microsoft Teams mask. All the good swag masks that a good MVP needs are located right there. I got a Windows 95 mask and a Windows 98 mask. So
there's an Xbox logo mask.
Exactly.
See, now that's calling me. I might have to get that.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, there were Microsoft Paint masks. There's all kinds of cool stuff there.
Oh, there's this blue screen mask. That is hilarious.
And there's one with the dialogue from Windows 95 when you drag things to the recycle bin and it says, "Would you like to recycle 2020?"
That's awesome.
Yeah.
There's Clippy.
Yeah,
Clippy
Clippy mask.
This is gonna take me down a rabbit hole. I'm gonna close that right now so we can talk.
And that's also, by the way, Redbubble is kind of the place where you can get the laptop stickers for anything. There's Power Automate ones. There's all kinds of stuff. So that's and all the Ninja Cat ones, including there's some new Ninja Cat designs. Yeah, that's the place. Cool. That's the place to get your MVP masks at. I did not see a Dynamics mask though. I think they're missing an opportunity.
I think so.
But it should be like get a CRM 3.0 with colorful Dynamics logo. I'd buy like 5 of those.
I would want a 1.2 with the bullseye.
Yeah, because it had a lot of bugs.
Yeah. The mask is keeping them out. See? Get
it? Exactly. So last week was Build. I did not get to watch as much of it as I could. I think I watched part of the keynote, and I also read up on some of the news. From a business applications perspective, there were several things. There. Probably the one that jumped out at me the most was they're making it easier to publish apps to Teams, and one of those is going to be Power Apps. And specifically, app creators are going to be able to build model-driven apps for Teams. Right now, you really only have Canvas apps. You have embedded. If you use Sales, you can turn on the dynamic sales integration with Teams, which can put a specific record inside of a channel. But if you take the URL for your model-driven app and put it in like a web control in a channel, it will work, but it doesn't look good because it's got all the Chrome around it and everything. Where I would anticipate this is building on. This is just speculation. I would think this is building on what started with the sales app.
Yeah, and I think that offers a lot of flexibility and a lot of capabilities that we haven't had before, and it could. Is it me, or could that avail itself to enabling functionality in Teams without having to create a whole new app? It's more targeted functionality. Could you do that?
Yeah, I think so. Because say you had your sales app you wanted to put in there, something like that, or even your field service scheduler or whatever. Put a field service mobile app or a model-driven app, or make a new model-driven app. But it just gives you. I think it just gives us options because what I've learned is sometimes, first of all, the Power Apps launcher for Windows is not great, and running in a window in just a browser is good, but having it in Teams can give you kind of a frictionless experience because, for example, we are deploying right now an expense request app. And that expense request app is something that we could deploy as just a standalone app. But the fact that it would be someplace else somebody would have to go and remember how to get there, that would be potentially a problem. So what I'm looking to do is deploy it in Teams, and I find that really powerful for that kind of thing, because it basically, to the user, they don't think, oh, I now need to go open my expense entry app. They can just, I need to go to my team site. I don't like to say team site because that sounds like a SharePoint team site, but I need to go to my team channel and just put in an expense request.
Right. It really does enable a lot of capabilities we never had before, which is exciting to my mind.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I mean, we were talking before the podcast about all these other things that you're using, like Planner, and you know, like I talk to our marketing folks quite a bit, and they use Planner along with other services like Marketo and things like that. So they actually have flows set up, but then, you know, looking at those tasks, you know, putting those inside of Teams and then having say Power Automate, generate, make things happen based on that is pretty powerful. And I think that's one thing that differentiates Teams from, say, Slack. You know, there's a lot of debate going on about Slack's better than Teams, Teams better than Slack, and you know, Microsoft is quickly responding to Slack and Zoom by now we can pop out conversations, which I've been enjoying doing that this week. Now we see 9 people on the screen, so you think you're watching the Brady Bunch. That's all fun. So they're doing the right things, you know, and I think having this, making it easier to, the apps, I think, are kind of the secret sauce behind taking Teams to the next level, because it really can make it, I called it the trapper keeper, you know, the thing that can take all your things and put them together into one thing, and you use that one thing. As long as it's done well and not, you still have to think and strategize about how you do it to do it right. But yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I've been trying to incorporate in my projects. This isn't customer facing, but in my projects, I'm trying to incorporate, you know, tying Azure DevOps into Teams, Planner, like you mentioned, things like that. But what this is starting to do is, when you start looking at implementations, and they have Teams in their infrastructure, it gives you another interface that you could leverage for certain user types, right? For certain personas. It really extends what you're able to do without having to do custom application development, which is neat.
Yeah, and I think that's where, if you're in a role like we are as an architect, consultant, or developer, talking about George, he's not here right now because he didn't want to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm worried sometime about his dedication. But anyway, yeah, so you really kind of need to broaden your scope. And, you know, it seems like people have wanted to stay within their little box. Like, this is what I do. I'm a Dynamics 365 customer engagement or CRM person. I'm an F&O person. You know, I'm the flow guy, whatever. You know, I think, you know, from my perspective, I want to broaden that. Not that I want to be the world's greatest Teams expert and to be deploying Teams end to end, but as Teams become more ubiquitous, I want the apps I'm building to be where the people are. And if they're in Teams, it's a great fit to say, hey, why don't we just, if you're not on the phone, why don't we just do this in Teams?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and exactly. And it also extends that collaboration for the customer, right? Because quite often you either have, you know, we still have customers that are still thinking notifications in terms of email, and they haven't quite made that leap to a Teams notification. But by extending the notification to Teams and then adding the content within channels, you're really making it very seamless for them and easy to not only accept that design concept, but to potentially change their business process along with it to improve it overall.
Right. So along with the model-driven apps for Teams, the The other thing that's coming in July, new Power Automate triggers and actions built specifically for teams are going to allow flow creators to better customize the team's experience, including more streamlined ability to automate at mentioning people. So put these all together. You got your model-driven app that drives your whatever you want process. I'll just say field service to humor you, Shawn.
Thanks, sir.
You got your model-driven app driving your field service process, and you want to have your Power Automate automating things within the teams. First of all, maybe your scheduler is going into Teams to do his or her thing, and based on certain things happening, you have more flexibility. You can currently do a flow that will mention someone. It's been a little challenging to get the ID of the channel and things like that, so it sounds like they're streamlining that. So even better. And then we can hopefully, once and for all, kill the email notifications.
That would be fantastic, and they'd be more actionable.
Yeah. The other thing, speaking of notifications, that I'm increasingly bullish on is the idea of when you have requirements for notifications. If I have a customer that wants to do notifications and they start talking about the old workflow email, I just groan inaudibly, of course. But there's so many better ways to do it. I love email digests. Where you have once a day, get me the list and do that. I put that together for a customer last week, and it was awesome. Especially if you get into like using a compose step, you can take the output of the digest. And if you don't know what I mean, the digest email is you have Power Automate, get a list of records, then use the HTML table to say build a formatted table, and then instead of sending every notification, which you still might do for the more urgent ones, give me one list per day. And there's some really good templates, like there's one that sends you a list of the opportunities. One of the COE starter kit ones has send me a list of all the flows or power apps published in my environment. So that's where, again, I think Teams as well. And that's how I think companies kind of shoot themselves in the foot a little bit when they say, we're going to use this platform like Teams for collaboration, but then they still do notifications via email. No, you should do notifications in Teams at mentioned people. They'll get notified. They'll get an email still if they have it set up to notify them with email and stuff.
Have you done anything where you have an integration, and when those records get created via the integration, you're notifying via Teams? I would imagine
I can't remember doing that specific thing, but yeah, you could do that. You could have that definitely some kind of thing, and that's where I think a common recommendation we do in our Center of Excellence offering is you set up a Teams, like a team champions kind of thing, and then you can have notifications, for apps and things like that going there.
Yeah, it's really stuff like this that we're talking about is really making it surprisingly more active in terms of sales support that I'm doing, and I know you're doing, even with a pandemic going on, which you would think a lot of that screeches to a halt, but not so. I mean, to a degree, it's slowed, but there's still quite a lot of active actions going on in terms of sales pursuits, which really speaks to the platform and all of this innovation that we've had during this time of the pandemic. I think we've seen more innovation in this 3-4 month period than we have in the last probably couple years combined.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. And I think I've seen in at least some of the ones I'm working with, it's with COVID, we can't do the big project. We can't do the full end-to-end deployment. Right. But let's pick this, one urgent case, or maybe there's things regarding COVID, like, we have people coming back to the office. We need to track where they are. So that's a perfect use of doing Canvas apps, and we're doing some development around that area, as other partners are too, I know. So you've been doing some offers and things around the remote assist too. That seems to be something that perfect kind of thing for when people are remote.
Well, yeah, that and scheduling. It's looking at the component parts of what used to be a bigger overall offering, and they're becoming offerings of their own, not owns. I'm
right.
saying, but which is really interesting because the business models changed, and now the available technology is being kind of flipped on its head to meet a different business case that didn't exist 4 months ago.
Right.
And there's still some work with licensing and such. I'm not going to go into licensing because God knows, but there's models that are emerging that weren't necessary before that I'm sure Microsoft is looking at. But ways that we can help our customers help their customers with technology like universal resource scheduling, doing self-scheduling on a portal, or being able to do remote assist with their customers, things like that. It's pretty exciting, pretty cool stuff.
So let me ask you a question on the Mr. Scheduler.
Okay.
All right. So this has come up. This was actually came up in a comment on the video you did for CRM Tip of the Day. You may or may not have seen it, but other people have come up. It's also come up, for example, in a conversation I had around a scenario of slot scheduling for COVID testing, where we have availability for 10 people to be tested between 2 and 4, something like that. And the idea of not scheduling a resource like universal resource scheduling, but rather scheduling a slot of time or having a group of people able to schedule, or those kind of non-traditional resource scheduling, or I want to schedule this person to work this slot in the customer service department tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So what have you seen, or what are your thoughts on the capability of using URS for that kind of scenario?
Well, I mean, it depends. It depends on the specific use case. But if we're talking about just scheduling available slots, you can do that a couple different ways. You could do that with generic resources, where the working hours are really just when you're open and closed, right? Anytime in between there, if they're open and closed, if there's an available spot, you could book it. So you're still scheduling in the sense you're scheduling a resource, but it's a generic resource that is a bucket of time, is how I would look at it, as opposed to an individual who has defined work hours and shifts and that sort of thing. At that point, once it's scheduled, the scheduler or the dispatcher could always look at and switch out the generic resource with someone that's available, right? Or add an additional resource to the generic resource so that the time block is maintained.
Right.
So that's a scenario that could work. Scheduling someone to work a shift in the customer service department, that's just a different type of schedule board that is using resources, assuming that resource wouldn't be booked for anything else while they're in the department. That could work very easily as well, based on the skills and characteristics and their ability to work in that department.
Yeah, but shift scheduling isn't the main focus, I would say. And there's other tools like shifts inside of Teams that you can use for if you have like a retail store that you have a shift type schedule.
Right. I would say the first scenario that you gave me is probably more along the lines of universal resource scheduling, whereas the second, I would look maybe, depending on your ERP situation, depending on a number of things, you might want to look at something more like shifts. Yeah.
Right. So I wonder what the impact of the delays with COVID and the delaying the forced upgrade for Wave 1 is going to do to the roadmap for Wave 2. We haven't really heard, and as far as I know, there weren't any real big BizApps announcements at Build. We had BizApp Summit, which we did get some really nice things. For one thing, the preview of the T-SQL endpoint is out now, and
Yep.
took a look at that, and it's sweet. It does really a job. What was impressed me about it was how it gives you both the ID and the name values when you have things like lookups, and it also works very well. Unfortunately, you can't use it for things like replacing fetch XML with for things like views, but it's definitely
Not
if
yet,
you're writing
anyway.
if you're writing reports, and ultimately I don't think it's meant for that. It still has the same limitations in record number counts as fetch does, things like that. But just the ability, here's where I think it will help. For one thing, you're writing reports. It's definitely you can do unions and things like that. I'm thinking too for record count validations too. If you want to, after you do a data load, do a count to quickly look at the data that was imported. It's a pain to do that just with advanced find. And getting record counts beyond say 5,000, whatever is you can't easily do it. What I do is I do an advanced find, export to Excel, and then look at the Excel, which is a big pain. So, but that is probably the other thing that I find the most exciting about what's happened. And we need to. Okay, so I tweeted this after they announced it, and Mr. Sewell there, he rains on my parade and starts saying, well, we need to see how it works and how good it is. That's my Scott Sewell impersonation, by the way. I've been working that for about 10 years. But
You got to slow it down, it's coming in. Yeah, exactly. It's standard.
But anyway, I think based on tests, I think it's not going to make anybody. It's not going to like revolutionize your life. I'm not going to go that far, but it's just a very nice thing to be able to do.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I mean, he is right. Let's see how it works, because it has a lot of potential. It's all in how it's executed. So, but if it enables, especially folks that have never really mastered fetch XML, or if folks that have those standard SQL skills, and that opens a door to get them into Power Apps and things like that. I mean, that's fantastic, just in and of itself,
right?
To my mind,
right. So it's a good thing. You should check it out.
Yeah, and what I would think about Wave 2. Here's my prediction. There's going to be a lot more in Wave 2 than we expect it to be in Wave 2. Because there's been a lot of people not on the road, a lot of people being able to focus more attention to things.
You talking about people at Microsoft?
Yeah.
I would temper that thought. A lot more in Wave 2, I'm not saying I disagree with you, but I think one thing you're not factoring in is people on the product team have been really, really busy with the COVID solutions, like the emergency response thing, and other things. I mean, they had people on the core team who have been solely focused on that are normally focused on things. So I think that, and also I would venture to say that probably switching to all remote from a team that normally worked in person probably has as well some delays. I do know that certain processes require access to certain secure computers and things like that, and there's been some limitation in availability of some of that stuff. So sure. I think you're right. I think there's been fewer people on the road, but I think it's just gonna be interesting to see how the ripple effects of that will play out.
Mm-hmm. And I think much like when when we were growing up and the space shuttle happened and different things came out of the space shuttle, I think you're going to see different innovations that we may not have thought about come out of the COVID work. Different applications of the same kind of principles and the same kind of we got to solve this problem. How do we do it? Where we're going to be able to take those, much like we did with when Power Apps first came out, the Canvas apps and all the templates, how those by themselves taught a lot of people Canvas apps, and how those by themselves made a lot of apps with minor tweaks. I think you're going to see a good chunk of that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's a good thing. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen there. So what's your
the platform's strong?
What's your top of the list field service wish? You had your crystal ball, and you could, get Ben Vollmer in a room and not let him leave until this thing happens. What would that thing be? Although I wouldn't want to be in a room that long with Ben Vollmer anyway.
I have been in a room that long with him, and it's an experience.
Yes, and I have pictures from that time.
That's right. I would say, me personally, I would love to see better management of multi-day scheduling. But also, I would love to see I would like to see more RSO capabilities that were easier to deploy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think RSO should be? I mean, it's a premium service, right? So
yeah, it is.
Should they keep it that way? Should they have a version of RSO that's more of a standard feature? Or what?
I think things are being worked on.
That's not vague and mysterious. Okay.
Well, what I'm saying is, I think much like anything, when something's proved out, it becomes a little more mainstream. So I think eventually, at some point, some elements of RSO will make its way into the standard product, and then RSO will be even, more full featured and more complex, probably.
Right.
RSO. I'd love to see it be able to do routing optimization based on weight of a truck or capacity of a tank or things like that. So doing those kind of things, it's more for certain types of customers rather than the whole. But the features that could improve the lives of the whole would probably, I could see make its way to the core product.
Yeah, that's cool. So let's see. We're just about the end of our time here, and send our well wishes to Mr. Dubinsky. I would mention that our team, which I don't know why I'm saying our, you weren't on the team, but we were successful and vanquished the Power Platform pub trivia, virtual pub quiz last week. We were, let's see, last time at UG Summit, we were unfairly robbed of the trophy by a sneaky Canadian team, but
they were ruthless.
This was a decisive victory, so
nice.
I would just
I like to think I was there like a holographic Yoda, like a little Force Ghost Yoda. I was there,
and I would like to thank Sarah Lagerquist for seeing the light and joining the good team this time.
That's right. So does that mean wherever she goes, they win?
She apparently is the missing piece there. So coming up on July 15th, I'm sure that she's getting a lot of requests to be on the team. I have not committed to it. I think I've done that, and I think I'll let other people have a chance this next time.
You gonna go out as a champion?
I think I will. You got to know when to bow out.
Exactly. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them. A wise man once said.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Mr. Tabor, I hope that you have a good weekend and keep on being awesome.
Same to you, sir. Good talking to everybody.